Retrospection here. Spring is in the air here in the south. It's kind of windy today, which is typical of spring around here. It's been windy the last several weeks actually, but it feels like a spring day here with the wind whipping, and there's the scent of fertilizer and manure in the air because the farmers are out fertilizing the fields, and so you know it's springtime when you smell that smell. Not the best smell, but I'm happy to smell it because it means the winter is over. I'm not big on winter. Prefer summer myself. I like it to be hot, but we're a little ways off from that, but it's warm enough now that makes it a little easier to come out here. You saw some of the videos I made this winter. I was freezing myself to death out here shooting, but got to do it. Got to come out here and put some rounds down range, sling a little lead, just to keep your sanity, right? But I'm here to present to you today a Ruger Security 6. This Ruger Security 6 is a very special Ruger Security 6 because if you happen to watch the video that was posted by Hickok45 last year, this is the exact same gun that he shot in that video. This was Hickok45's gun. And I'd wanted one of these guns for a long time. I'd seen a few here and there, and they really wanted too much for them in the condition they were in the shops when I saw them, and you didn't come across them that often. You know, they haven't been made since 1988. They were only made from 72 to 98, to 88, I'm sorry. And, you know, so it's been, 34 years since these things have been, made. So they're getting to be somewhat rare now, and I'd always wanted to pick one up, but I just never could find one. And then last year Hickok posted his video of this one, and I said, that rascal has got another gun. And I realized it's just not fair because he hoards all of the good guns. I can't find anything because he's buying up everything. I said, it's not right, it's not fair. So I'm gonna do something about it. So I loaded up and I went up to where he lives up there, and I snuck in the backside of the compound out there, and it just so happened that the day I snuck in was the day he was shooting this gun. Who would have thought that that would happen? But it was my lucky day, right? And so I snuck up there and I was watching him shoot, and he took a break to go in and get himself a bologna sandwich. I'm sure that's what it was. So he went in and got a bologna sandwich. I snuck up to the range table and I grabbed this rascal. But I forgot he has a guard cat named Slamfire. And Slamfire came out with his teeth a-baring and his claws out. He latched onto my face, and we're rolling down the hill. Luckily, he's a cat. And by the time we got to the bottom of the hill, he lost all interest in me and just wandered off. That's why you never have a guard cat to be a dog, or a cat to be a guard dog, or I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's how I came to be in possession of this Ruger Security 6 that was Hickok45's. What? You don't believe me? Oh, you watched the video last year, of course. Well, I was trying to make it more exciting than it was, but I should have known you guys had all watched Hickok's video, Mr. 6.5 million subscribers, or whatever he's at now. So you know he donated this to the TFA auction last year. And you can see I'm wearing my TFA swag, my hat, got my shirt on, supporting the TFA, Tennessee Firearms Association. I'm a life member, and I was at their annual meeting last year. And when Hickok said that he was going to put this gun up, and I've been wanting a Security 6 for a long time, I told my wife, I said, when we go to the auction this year, when we go to the meeting this year and they have the auction, I'm bidding on that gun. I'm gonna get that gun. And so I made plans, and I already prepared my wife for what I was going to do. And before the auction, before the meeting got started, I even had a chance to talk with Hickok again. Seen him several times over the years, but it was nice to get to see him there before that. And we looked at the gun together a little bit and talked a little bit. We were over at the same area talking. And I told him, I said, I'm going to get that gun. I'm going to bid on that gun. And when it came around time, I bid on it and I got it. Now, I didn't pay a small price for it, It was more than what market value was, but it was for a good cause. It was for the TFA. It benefited them because, you know, Hickok donated it to that auction because he's supporting the work the TFA is doing in the state of Tennessee to further our gun rights. And it's very important, I think, for well-known people in the gun community, big names like Hickok, to do that kind of thing and support our gun rights. So I really appreciate that he did that, so that I could then bid on this gun, and I could then bring it home, and I could then do this video, you know, where I get to say his name and hopefully put his name on the title of the video to, you know, piggyback off his success to try to make my channel bigger. Did I just say that out loud? I think I just said that out loud. Anyway, I've got the Security 6 here, and don't worry, I actually contacted Hickok45 before I did this video, and I told him I would let him preview the video first and make sure he approved of everything I said and any images I might use of him or whatever. So if you're seeing this video, it was approved by Hickok45. He looked at it and said it was good enough, it was okay to post it, or he just decided I wasn't big enough to make any difference whatsoever and he didn't care what I did. That's probably what it is. But anyway, if you're seeing this video, he didn't tell me not to, we'll put it that way. So let's talk about the Ruger Security 6. Alright guys, had to cut for just a second there because the wind had blown everything I've got over, because it's whipping out here today, and it blew one of my cameras over and blew a target over. So before I get started, I hadn't shot this since last year, since I first got it, so I'm really not sure where it's hitting or anything like that. So I want to put a few rounds on a target just to kind of get an idea of where it's shooting, and so hopefully I can make a little bit of a better video and you don't have to sit out here watching me get frustrated and miss all the time. So let me just shoot this target here and see where these are going. See if I can get a good bead on this. Not too bad there. Yeah, I pulled that one a little low. And the wind's gonna blow this target up before I can shoot it. Yeah. Is that 6 shots? I believe that was 6 shots. Did he fire 5? Did he fire 6? Obviously I fired 6. So it looks like it's pretty well on. It's kind of hard with the way that target's whipping around there to tell whether I was accurate or not, but it's not too bad a group. That's, I don't know, 7-10 yards, just somewhere in between. So let's do a little bit of shooting with the gun here. We'll talk about it a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of redundant information. Since all you watched Hickok's video last year, you know everything I'm going to say already, right? You already know everything there is to know about this gun. He broke it down in the video and everything, so I don't even have to take it into the table and do any of that. But I did the video about the 686 and the GP100, and this is very similar to a GP100. GP100 is kind of an upgraded version of this. We'll look at that a little bit. But the Security 6 came out in '72. My understanding it was actually designed by the guy who designed the high standard Sentinel, the 22 caliber that they had, 9-shot revolver. That he was actually one of the ones that was involved in developing this. And you know, Ruger had started out with that Mark 1, the semi-auto 22, and then they branched off into the single action revolvers, trying to capitalize on the Western movie craze and the fact that, you know, Colt was not making those single actions anymore. And then as the 60s came around, with the popularity of the .357 Magnum cartridge, especially with the K-frames that Smith & Wesson had developed in the 60s with the Model 19, which here's a Model 19 right here. This is a 6-inch. But this is the medium-sized revolver, which is what they came out with in the 50s, that really, you know, impressed law enforcement, because you had that power, you had the same capacity as the N-frame, same capacity as a Model 27 or 28, but in a smaller package that's easier to carry and still very shootable. And so this was a very popular gun. And then Colt as well, with their, you know, with their Pythons and the different guns that they had, their troopers, you know, those were popular guns as well, and Ruger wanted in on that market. And so in the 60s, they began developing a double action revolver And this is the one they developed, the Ruger Security 6. And this came out in '72 is when they finally brought it to market. And they came out with 3 versions. If you saw Hickok's video, you saw that they had this one, which was the Security 6. You could get it either blued or stainless. They came out with the stainless. And then they also had the Police Service 6. The Service 6 had non-adjustable sights, just the trough there. And then they had the Speed 6, which had like a round butt and the shorter barrels, which was more for a concealed carry kind of thing. And that was the 3 models they came out with. But then in 1980, early 80s, Smith & Wesson came out with their 686, which was a beefier revolver that could really handle those hot .357 Magnums all the time. And so Ruger was really wanting to compete with the 686 because it was such a popular revolver when it came out. And so they wanted to beef up their gun a little bit and make a little bit larger frame like the L frame that Smith had come out with, which was roughly the same size as the Python, right? The Python was a little bit bigger frame too, a little beefier gun than the Model 19 was as well in the Security 6. So they wanted to beef their gun up, so they came out with the GP100 in '85. And it was about a 3-year period or so when both revolvers were sold at the same time, but the GP100 really was the replacement for the Security 6. And it was phased out, so that by '88 they took it off the market and went strictly with the GP100. So let's do a little shooting. I think I've blabbed enough now, told enough tall tales that nobody believes, ruined my credibility. Nobody will ever listen to me again. All right, let's shoot a little bit here. Let's see if we can hit anything at all with this gun. Hopefully, with this wind whipping, it's not going to bother me too much. I don't think it's going to blow the bullets around, but it may blow me around. It may blow me off target. Let's just shoot a little bit here. That one or not, out of ammo. Actually had a little piece of lead come back and hit me in the stomach there. Don't have that happen often at this distance, because we're shooting at about 20 yards. Now it don't hurt as long as you're wearing some sort of eye protection, which I am. You know, I got my glasses on. You're fine at this distance with handgun velocity cartridges. You start shooting rifles at this distance, it's not a good idea. You know, you shouldn't be shooting high velocity cartridges at 20 yards. You need to be shooting at 100, depending on what the cartridge is, obviously. You know, some of the slower cartridges, 45-70, even 30-30, you know, I'll shoot a plate at, you know, 60-70 yards with something like that, because they really don't have that much velocity, especially my hand loads, you know, that are usually not loaded that hot. Though I do load a 45-70 that's smoking pretty good. It's not one of those tier 1 loads like you only shoot in the Ruger Model 1s, but it's on the high end for a lever gun, and it'll knock spit out of your mouth, that's for sure. So let's shoot a little bit more here. Let's see if I can hit these little plates. It looks like it's pointing a little bit to the left, which on the target there it was doing a little bit of that, but it was hard to tell if that was actually what was happening or if the target was just moving so much I couldn't tell. So I'm going to hold over just a little bit. Yeah, and that's what did it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever hit that. There we go. Flinched a little bit on that. I don't know if you caught that. Just don't pay attention. Ignore that. I'm a great shooter. I've been told that I'm too self-deprecating. I need to be giving myself more credit for being a decent shooter and having knowledge. And so from now on, I'm going to throw modesty to the wind. I am awesome. That don't even sound right coming out of my mouth. That's just a lie. I'm okay. We'll put it that way. We'll just go with that and say good enough. All right. Let's go out to 35. Let's see if I can hit this with. This is a 357 here. Well, nothing happened. Got a light primer strike. Let's try that again. There we go. Got a little bit of punch in this gun. shot all of them or not. Did y'all count the rounds? I didn't count them. Nope, we got one that has a bad primer apparently. It did not go off, and that is actually a good primer strike. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's actually a good primer strike. It just didn't go off. I guess that primer was just bad for whatever reason. Not sure which brand that is. You use several different brands. These days you use whatever you can find because it's hard to come by. All right, let's shoot a little bit more. Let's go out to that 80-yard plate out there. I don't know, having to hold over 38 special. Probably should have just done this with a 357, but let's see if I can hit anything over there. I'll lob a few over there. I don't want to waste too many. I don't want to make this too long of a video either. I can see where that one even went. Just a hair short, isn't it? Just a hair over the top left side. I couldn't see that one at all. This wind is whipping. It's blowing me around everywhere. Blowing me around everywhere. Hard to maintain a steady hold when the wind's wanting to push you. It's, I think, whipping about 25 miles an hour today. Let's put some more 357s down here. I'm going to try the 357s over there, see if I get a little bit better point of aim with them. See if that helps me hit. I think I may have hit the, I don't know, I may have actually hit the chain, because it didn't hit the plate, but the plate shook, so I may have hit the chain. Going right under it, I think. Right over it. Wind blew me that time. Well, I don't think today is going to be the day to try to do that. Precision shooting may just be out of the cards today. Because that wind is mighty. Well, hopefully it's not causing too much trouble with the audio. Hopefully you guys can hear me and it's not just roaring. That dead cat I've got is gigantic, so maybe it's doing its job. So we'll just have to stick with these plates over here today, I guess. Let's do a little more shooting here. I was expecting 357 Magnums when it didn't hit very hard. Those 38 specials went off. I thought something was wrong for a second there. I was shooting those double action. I was doing pretty good double action with it. I don't think the triggers on a Ruger are as good as the Smith. They've got a coil mainspring, and it gives a different type of trigger pull. They're not bad trigger pulls. They're not bad double action triggers at all, but as a Smith person, as a guy who kind of cut his teeth shooting revolvers with a Smith, it's just not quite the same thing. You just don't have the same sort of crispness as you do on a Smith, but they're good guns. You know, I'm not going to ever fault a Ruger at all. I kind of wish it had target grips. These are kind of like what Smith would call Magna grips. I wish it had target grips, which is like what's on this Model 19 here. But because they did make them on that as well. But I think these look really well. They look really good. But I don't think they shoot as well to me as the targets. Maybe that's why they call them target grips, because they're better at target shooting. Huh. Something to think about. Let's do a little more shooting here. Let's try a few more rounds here. Well, where am I going? Yeah. Some days just ain't your day. I don't know if today's one of those days or not. Actually, hadn't been a very bad day. Not really shooting all that bad. Need to stop being pessimistic. The power of positive thinking. Think good thoughts. Maybe that's why I'm missing. I'm not thinking good thoughts. I'm going to think. I'm going to believe that I'm going to hit. I believe I'm going to hit. Well, my belief just left me, didn't it? Well, as I said, these little grips, shooting double action, are not as good, I don't think, as the target grips. Feels like it moves in your hand a little bit while you're trying to shoot double action with it. Yeah, what are we doing here? Is that a high primer or something? Didn't want to lock up on me. Well, that's something different. Well, Ruger's. Yep, there it is. I didn't even think about that with the Ruger because the GP100s don't have they don't have the ejector rods that unscrew, but this model was like the Smith & Wessons. The ejector rods would unscrew on them, and that's what happened. The ejector rod had come unscrewed, and that's why it wouldn't go into it wouldn't lock in. The cylinder wouldn't lock in. So that's what I was experiencing there. But screwed her back down. I need to get it tightened up a little bit more, but maybe hand tighten it'll do it for the rest of the video. I don't know why I keep running out after 6 rounds. I thought this was one of those high capacity guns. Well, these newfangled modern weapons of war, they're so dangerous. Almost like I'm shooting something old-fashioned, right? I like old-fashioned. Old-fashioned is fun. Rosy retrospection. Come on now. There we go. And a little bit of a flinch there. Rosy retrospection. The idea that everything in past times was better than it is now. We're all guilty of that, aren't we? People in the gun community, I think especially, are guilty of that. And so you'll have a lot of people that'll look at a gun like this that's been discontinued, that hadn't been around since the 80s, and they'll think, you know, the Security 6, that was such a great gun. Those Security 6s were better than those Rugers they're coming out with now. And you hear the same thing with Smith & Wesson, right? All those pendant recessed models, those were so much better. The quality was so much better on the Smith & Wessons back then. They were just better guns. Is that true? It's hard to say, right? It's hard to say. There were lemons back then as well, right? You know, they had problems with guns back in the day. The thing is now, any gun that had a problem back in the day, 40 years ago, that problem's either already been resolved or the gun's been scrapped or something, right? The guns that are left are the ones that were the good guns. So if you get a gun now, more than likely, it's one of the better guns, because if there was something wrong with it, it would have been addressed 40 years ago. And so that's what the difference is going to be in buying an old gun. More than likely, if you buy an old gun, it's going to be one that was one of the better guns to begin with, hopefully. Now, obviously, somebody could have messed it up over the years. But, you know, that we've got to be careful of rosy retrospection where we think everything is better in the past than today. Because if you look at a lot of statistics, you look at a lot of numbers, it's really not the case. Less poverty now, less world hunger now, right? Less crime now. Now, crime has risen in some inner city areas over the last few years for reasons I'm not going to even bother going into in this video, because it's irrelevant to the Ruger Security 6. And I guess everything I'm saying right now is irrelevant to the Ruger Security 6, but I'm going to make it relevant somehow or another. Just give me time. But, you know, crime is down overall from what it was 40, 30 years ago. And yet everyone wants to say, oh, crime is terrible now. Everything is so bad now. We need gun control. We need all of these things to stop all this violence. And you realize we've got looser gun laws now. More people are carrying firearms now, but the murder rate is lower. the rate of violence is lower. So it has nothing to do with the guns itself. Everything is not worse now than it used to be. At least not in some areas. Now, that's not saying that everything now is better than everything that's old, because that's the other side of it, and you get people that feel the same way about that, right? You know, the old stuff is bad and the new stuff is all that matters. And you've got guys in the gun community that are that way too, right? All they like is the newfangled stuff. They don't care about those old lever guns and revolvers and what have you. All they want's the AR style rifles and the polymer frame guns, and everything else is obsolete and it's terrible and it's useless. Well, you know, we can't say that either, right? You shouldn't be that way either. There's value in the old stuff as well. So I guess I'm just saying we need to judge everything based on its own merits and its own quality, and stop worrying about whether it's new or old. I guess that's the long and the short of it. So I'm not going to worry about whether the Security 6 is old. I think it was made in '79, I believe. I'm just going to judge it by its own merits, and on its own merits, it's a pretty good gun. It's not a Smith & Wesson. You know, it's not a Colt. It has its own character. You know, it's made to be a little bit more inexpensive than either one of the other guns. That was the niche they were going for, right? They were wanting to fill that void and get contracts with police departments based on cost, and get people to buy their revolvers based on cost. And there's something to be said about that, right? You get an extremely good revolver, you get an extremely good gun at a lower price, and you can never blame someone for saying, I'd rather have a Ruger at $500 than a Smith & Wesson at $600, or a Colt at $900, or whatever the difference might be between a couple models. You know, because if you're needing to save money, you're not really sacrificing a lot of quality. Maybe a little bit of fit and finish. You know, they're not as aesthetically pleasing as a Smith & Wesson to me, but they're a workhorse. They're a good gun. You know, they're cast. You know, investment casting is what Ruger does versus forged. So they're a little cheaper in production cost because of that. But that doesn't mean they're not good guns. They're really good guns. Ruger makes a good product, and you know, some people not like Ruger because of some of the things that the owner, Bill Ruger, did in the 90s, I think, especially with some support of some anti-gun stuff that he did. But you know, he's no longer with us. The company's a different company now, so you know, sometimes you just got to let things be in the past. And Ruger's making a pretty good product now. I've got several of them. I think you've seen several of them on this channel now, and they're not my favorite. Smith & Wesson's my favorite, but they're pretty high up the list. They're pretty high up the chart for me, because I've got almost as many Rugers as I do Smith & Wessons, and that's saying something. So I do like their product. Now, I plan on buying more. I'm not done with Ruger. Don't tell my wife. Hope she ain't listening. Don't tell her I said that, but I'm not done buying Rugers. All right, let's shoot just a little bit more, and then I'm going to let you go. I've been talking way too much. I get in trouble for yapping. I told you that last time. I'm going to stop yapping so much. I'm going to shoot, and look, all I've done is yap this whole video. All I've done is talk this entire video. All right, let's shoot a little bit more. As usual, the little plates give me fits. All right, I got to hit that little plate. I've got to hit those two little plates. I'm going to shoot till I hit the two little plates, and then I'm going to be done. And that is a promise. I'm making that promise to you. But I've got these three guns here, the GP100 and the Security 6 here. You can see them. If I line them up here, you can kind of see the difference in the size of them. GP100 is just a little bigger, and it's a little taller too, right? See on the back there, a little taller. But this GP100 I've got here looks a lot like it, because it's got the half underlug here, and this is a special edition that was made that kind of looks more like the old Ruger Security 6, and when I bought it, I really liked that about it. Of course, now I got a Ruger Security 6, and I'm kind of jonesing now for one of the regular GP100s with the full lug and stainless. I may have to pick one of those up at some point. All right, little plates it is. Going single action. This wind is blowing now. There's one. Let's see if I can get the other one. And I got the other one. There we go. There we go. People always want to call when I'm doing a video because I forget to turn my ringer off. But that's just the way it goes, I guess. Everybody wants to talk to Preacher 357. Pick my brain for knowledge, right? Probably not. Probably somebody want me to buy something. Probably a telemarketer. Probably the NRA. They call me all the time. Want me to give them money, which I ain't going to give them. I'm a life member, but I ain't giving them any more money because of some of the stuff that's been going on there. But all my money's going to the TFA, or it's going to the GOA, but most of the TFA now. As I said in that 2A sermon that I did, which I really need to do another one. I just hadn't got around to doing another one lately. But on the first 2A sermon I did about supporting the state level organizations, because I think that's really where the fight's going to be. And so I support the TFA. We've got the lobby day coming up in just a couple of weeks here in Tennessee that the GOA and the TFA are supporting, that I plan on going up for. So, you know, it's important that if you like guns and you want to support gun rights, that you get out and be active. So if you live in Tennessee, I'm asking you to support the TFA, the Tennessee Firearms Association, with money, with your time, with your effort. Call your legislators, let them know what you think. Make sure they're aware of what you want, because if you don't make them aware, they're going to do whatever they want to do, and whatever profits them often is what they're going to do. We've got some good legislators who aren't like that, but there are some that are like that. And you know, I know several that are real strong 2A supporters, and they stand on principle, but we can't count on every one of them to do that. We have to make sure they know what we want them to do, and it's our duty in Tennessee as citizens of Tennessee to instruct them. That's what our Constitution says we're supposed to do. We need to let them know what we want. So if you're not a member of the TFA, if you're not involved, get involved. There's a link on my YouTube channel for the TFA to join the TFA. I'll put one in the description as well. So if you're not a member, please join up. And here's the Ruger Security 6. It was Hickok's. Now it's mine. And he can't have it back, because I like it. And I'm proud to have it, and I'm glad I could support the TFA by buying it. I appreciate Hickok for donating it, and I appreciate all you guys coming out. God bless you. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.